Playwright Anton Chekhov famously said, "Never place a loaded rifle on stage if it isn't going to go off." In other words, every detail must be relevant, and every setup should have a payoff. Thus, the narrative principle of Chekhov's gun was born. But it isn't always a gun. Chekhov's Whatever is a podcast where myself and guests watch a movie and try to predict what role Chekhov's gun will play. Welcome to Chekhov's Whatever. Hello and welcome to Chekhov's Whatever, the podcast that makes a game of movies and storytelling. I'm your host, Meg Mazeski. Here with me today to discuss the 2025 action comedy flick Back in Action are Josh and Melissa. Welcome, Josh and Melissa.
Hello.
How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for joining me. Josh and Melissa are a husband-wife podcasting duo. They were the co-hosts of The One with Josh and Melissa, which started as a Friends podcast and then grew to be so much more. Why don't you tell the listener a little bit more about it and yourselves?
Well, I had to look it up, but we started in 2012, back in the olden days of podcasting.
Yeah.
But we recorded an episode at the beginning for every episode of Friends, and then eventually I think we put it into 2 in an episode. But regardless, we covered every episode of Friends, and then we're fans of TV shows, especially sitcoms.
Mm-hmm.
So then we would just watch sitcoms and give our thoughts. And that was it. We just a decade later in like 2022, but those episodes are still out there. If you're interested, if you love Friends, we are good friends to watch the entire series with.
I agree. And I highly recommend that everyone go check it out. Yes, and Josh and Melissa have decided to join me to talk about the movie Back in Action. This is a 2025 action comedy. It was made for Netflix. The summary is as follows. 15 years after vanishing from the CIA to start a family, elite spies Matt and Emily jump back into the world of espionage when their cover is blown. This movie stars Jamie Foxx, Cameron Diaz, McKenna Roberts, Glenn Close, and Andrew Scott, among others, and it was written and directed by Seth Gordon. Currently on Rotten Tomatoes, it has a 27% critic score and a 58% audience score. So Josh and Melissa, did you have any expectations going into this movie?
I was hoping for a fun movie, which I do think it delivered. I think there was maybe a few problems with it that could have been ironed out, perhaps. But I was excited to see Cameron Diaz again, though, because she's in one of my favorite holiday movies, The Holiday.
Oh, I love The Holiday.
Yes. So I was really excited to see her back again.
Well, and I think, too, the other part that I didn't realize was that this is actually not necessarily a 2025 film. It was actually mostly filmed in 23. Jamie Foxx had his stroke and was out of commission for a year in the middle of filming. So this is coming out much later afterwards. But I think I agree with Melissa. Mostly a good movie. It's exactly what you expect from the trailer. And I was prepared to be whelmed. I wasn't under or over. I was right in the middle. I was whelmed.
That's a good place to be, expecting to be whelmed, because then you have a lot of opportunity to be pleasantly surprised, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Yes.
I would say I was on the same page as Melissa. I like the players in this movie. Cameron Diaz, she's a lot of fun, especially in a comedy role. Besides The Holiday, I also love Charlie's Angels. It's one of my guilty pleasures for sure. So I was excited to see her back in that sort of kick-ass girl boss role, I suppose. And Jamie Foxx, he, I think, is an excellent dramatic actor, but personally, I like him better in lighter fare. So I was also excited to see him in a comedy role as well. So that's what I felt going into it. And yeah, we'll see. We'll see what we thought. But before we get into the movie, here's a quick overview of how Chekhov's Whatever works. This is a podcast where myself and the lovely guests watch and review a movie that's new to us. We also play a game where we try to guess what Chekhov's gun will be and how it will play out later in the movie. Chekhov's gun is a plot element that must have a setup and a payoff. The setup usually happens early in the movie, and the payoff typically comes in Act 3. A Chekhov's gun is also typically a concrete item, action, or person rather than something symbolic or thematic. And finally, a Chekhov's gun should move the plot forward. We get +2 points if we correctly identify a Chekhov's gun. We also get an additional point if we correctly guess how that gun will pay off. And finally, we lose 1 point if we incorrectly identify Chekhov's gun and its role. And then whoever has the most points at the end of the game wins. Who do you think is going to win between the two of you, or have you pre-discussed this?
So, pursuant to other episodes that you have, I am a Sagittarius, and I guess we don't care about winning games as long as everyone has a good time. But I am married to a Virgo who can be, at times, competitive.
And I'm a Capricorn, so I have to win.
Okay, he's being kind here. Technically, I think I'm on the verge of Leo, so I have all the organizational skills of a Virgo and the fiery temper of 1,000 suns. So, so I like to win, but I think we did discuss that we were going to play as one person.
Oh, as a team. Okay, perfect.
Yes. And I think that I came up with maybe 2 Chekhov's moments. So I don't have as many. So yes. But I don't care if we win or lose. I'm already having fun.
I love it. We're echoing the movie. You're a husband-wife killer team, just like Matt and Emily. So yeah, starting back in action, we begin with a title card that says 15 years ago. This is when we meet Matt, Jamie Foxx, and Emily Cameron Diaz, who are undercover CIA operatives. They get a call from their handler, played by Kyle Chandler. I realize now that rhymes. I maybe could have phrased that better. Their handler's name is Chuck, and he says it's time for them to move in on their target. But Emily has just found out that she is pregnant.
Emily could have stopped at 2 or 3 pregnancy tests, not the requisite, was it 7?
I think it was at least 5. Yeah. Jamie Foxx called it a royal flush of pregnancy tests.
Yes.
That was funny.
And as somebody who's peed on a stick before, I mean, that's a lot of pee. Like, I don't know what girl was drinking.
That's true.
But to have enough in there for 5, woof.
The directions say to hold it under the stream for 10 seconds. That is a lot of pee.
That like a solid minute. That's like Tom Hanks level in A League of Their Own.
Oh, in so many movies. He likes to pee on film. That's like his thing.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yes, but Emily hasn't revealed quite yet to Matt that she's pregnant. That'll come in just a couple of scenes. So she's concealing it for the moment when they arrive at the target destination, which is a big fancy mansion for a child's 8th birthday party. Their target is a terrorist named Gore. He's head of the Volca terrorist organization. And their goal is to get the ICS key, aka the MacGuffin. This will come back in the movie a lot.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
ICS stands for Industrial Control Systems, and this is a master key for some of the world's most critical infrastructure, including nuclear reactors, etc.
I will shoot my gun once here.
Yes, please.
I have, I'm calling it Chekhov's tax credit. I don't think I'm doomed to win points here, but I'm going to throw it out there. As we get this beautiful English manner in this scene, mm-hmm. I'll stake my claim here. I'll pay it off later, but regardless, Chekhov's tax credit.
So how do you think this will play out later? What's your guess for how this gun will go off?
I feel like we're going to see England again. Specifically, landmarks that will get you a tax benefit if you put them in the film.
Oh, got it. I see. So there might also be scenes in perhaps Dublin and also Atlanta, perhaps, is what you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah.
So they do retrieve the ICS key, but not before fighting off a few bad guys after they trip an alarm. But they fight their way out, and they are able to make it to their escape jet. This is where they meet up with Baron, played by Andrew Scott. He is an MI6 agent who has the hots for Emily, and he and Matt bicker a little bit. So we're setting up some tension, some romantic tension, some non-romantic tension. Baron puts them on the private jet out of the country for their extraction flight.
And it's nice to see Moriarty. I didn't know he was in the movie, and when he showed up, I was like, yes, it's Moriarty.
Andrew Scott is so hit or miss for me. I either love him or am annoyed by him.
Right? Yes.
Okay.
I'm with you.
Yes, honestly, I did not like his portrayal of Moriarty, but I have strong Sherlock Holmes feelings that I could probably do a whole podcast about. Loved him in Fleabag. I do think he's a good actor. I just don't always agree with his choices, I guess I would say.
Yeah, I think my love is more for Fleabag. But yes, the Defrocked Priest was one of my favorite storylines. He's wonderful in it. But yes.
I like maybe that that he does kind of mix it up. Like, sometimes I get bored with an actor because I'm like, I know how you're going to play this. And every other movie you do from here until eternity. So at least he's got something different.
That's true. He's not predictable. He's not typecast. You never know what he's going to bring to the table. You know, that's a good way of putting it. I might like him a little bit more now.
He's not Tom Cruise.
He's not boring.
Yeah. No, he's not Tom Cruise. He's not The Rock. He's not just going to be himself in every movie.
Right. Yes.
I thought he was funny in this movie because he plays it really straight. I think that he sort of missed the memo that he was in a silly movie.
Yeah. The check cleared. He's like, I'm going to give you what you paid me for, straight acting.
Proper British performance.
On the plane, this is where Emily tells Matt that she's pregnant. She puts everything on the table, literally, including all of those peed on pregnancy tests that we mentioned.
Very unsanitary. Okay. That's people eat there.
Yes, but also at the same time, expecting a man to be disgusted by that, I felt like no, obviously not. Like, he's just, of course he's going to grab them and look at them. Yes.
Right.
Matt is a little bit surprised by the news, but then he is quickly delighted by it. He says that he is all in and he's so happy that his favorite person is going to be making his new favorite person. So that's very sweet. But their happy news is spoiled when they find out the plane has been hijacked by Gore's terrorists who want the ICS key. Cue one of, I was going to say the first fight scene, but I guess it's already the second fight scene in the movie. This was pretty fun. So what do you think about, so far, the action in this movie?
The action is great. And this scene in particular is like, they obviously backed up the Brinks truck and did some really interesting special effects with the plane shooting down the mountain and parts of it getting torn off, and the fight continues. Whereas I know I'm not trained classically as a spy, but if I'm in a plane crash, that's probably the end of my fighting. I'm going to try and just run away at that point. But they're in it. They're committed.
Yes.
I agree. I think I had missed the one thing that Cameron Diaz has as a action star that was great in like Charlie's Angels is those really long legs.
The 6 foot legs.
And, and the person who did all the design of the fights, I think they took real good advantage of that and used her in a really good way. To me, this seemed very reminiscent. I believe there's a James Bond movie that does with the side of the mountain and stuff, but I wouldn't take anything away from it. The action scenes of the movie are probably the most successful parts of the movie. Like, it knows exactly what it is in it.
Totally. And I like your observation about leaning into Cameron Diaz's strength. I always get a little bit taken out of an action movie when, let's face it, a small, petite woman who probably weighs like 80 pounds soaking wet is able to take out big, burly henchmen, right? But the way that they choreographed this fight scene, I felt like it was as believable as it could be as far as Cameron Diaz's skills go. And, you know, she's hitting people in the face with the butt of a gun. It's like, yeah, that's going to hurt someone no matter who it is. And like you said, you know, the long legs, she's doing some Black Widow moves, all the sort of acrobatics and stuff. And I was like, yeah, I believe it. And even though they don't explicitly call out in this scene that Matt and Emily tend not to use guns when they can avoid it, she pops the bullet out of the gun that she's using. This is a recurring thing throughout the movie. As far as an action movie goes, it's pretty sanitized. There's not much blood. The good guys don't ever seem to be intending to use lethal force. They rarely, if ever, use guns, and then it's really only to threaten people. I don't think they ever actually shoot anyone in the movie. So I'm a little bit squeamish about violence. I understand an action movie, but I thought it was a good way to still have a like high action, high adrenaline action scene without being a big shoot 'em up, you know?
Absolutely, because I have a deep and abiding love for Chris Hemsworth. And so we watched Extraction. And at some point, I just remember looking at Josh like I don't know if I can watch another person get shot in the head. Like, this is just too much.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to do it, because he might take his shirt off, but we gotta maybe tone down on some of the violence.
I agree.
And I loved that they didn't have as much violence in this one, like you were saying.
Mm-hmm. I even think that scene is there on purpose. I believe their goal here is to make a family action movie. Yes. So I think that opening scene when she removes the bullet, I think it's a message to the parents watching. It's okay. We're going to go for Jackie Chan level violence. It's fun, but no one's going to be murdered horrifically in front of your 10-year-old, 12-year-old.
No pencils through the eye or anything like that.
Exactly.
Yes, so the plane is breaking apart. The fuselage is careening off a cliff. There's only one parachute. Matt gives it to Emily, but she's like, I don't think so. We're in this together. And speaking of her long legs, she wraps her legs around him, and thanks to her inner thigh strength, they both parachute out and land safely.
So this brings me to my first gun, Chekhov's thighs of steel. I really thought there was a chance it would come back later on, that she would have to somehow or another save somebody with only the power of her inner thighs. But I guess we'll have to see.
I know. Gosh, I love that. I think that's an excellent guess. So it's at this moment that they decide this is actually, in fact, the perfect opportunity for them to start their family. They say that they will be assumed dead in the plane crash, and they say to each other, hey, now's our chance. Let's get off the grid. Let's cut all contact. We're going to leave this old life behind, and we're going to live normal civilian lives, starting our new family. Cut to present day 15 years later, and the title card where we are in suburbia, America, suburbs. Matt and Emily are now the average American family with 2.5 kids and a white picket fence and a dog. No, actually, I don't think they have a dog. And in fact, they have 2 children, a 14-year-old daughter named Alice, who is played by McKenna Roberts, and a 12-year-old son named Leo, played by Rylan Jackson. Matt is a soccer coach. I was not able to glean any other career that he may or may not have.
Yeah, I wondered about that myself.
Yes.
She has a career, but it's interesting that the most he seems to be interested in is the soccer team.
I'm not sure that custom puzzles on Etsy is a career, but they must do something to afford that house.
Maybe the CIA pays really well and they're just living off their savings.
I was very confused.
They stashed money during previous jobs and they don't have to work. They're just pretending to work.
Oh, they're retired.
Oh, maybe.
That would make more sense.
You guys are just, I'm a spy expert. I used to be Black Ops, but now anyway.
Like Melissa was saying, she's not classically trained. Are you perhaps classically trained?
Yes, I'm no level of trained. Yeah.
But yes, overall, they do seem to be one big happy family, except that there's a little bit of tension between Emily and their daughter, Alice. They haven't quite been getting along as much lately. Alice is your typical teenager. She thinks that mom is totally uncool. And Emily says to Matt, though, she doesn't want to be like how her mother was. She refuses to be the distant absentee mother, and she's going to be there for her daughter. And she's determined to have a relationship with Alice and be present in her life. But Alice accuses her parents of being lying phonies, and their Peace Corps cover story is not passing muster even with their own children. So you have to wonder how they stayed under the radar for so long.
Yeah, I expected them to be better at lying.
You would think so, yes.
I do think that there is something to the fact that as we have we had 2 teenagers. Now we
still do.
No, one's 20, so
He will be.
It's a couple months away. So I gave it to him. Yeah, I rounded up.
We still have 2 teenagers.
Fair enough.
Technically correct.
I feel like I'm in the doghouse now. I just misaged my children. But there is something about your children reading your bullshit better than anybody else in the world can, because they've been trained on it since they were very young. So I don't mind this plot point of the movie, the fact that she sees through them. Like, I actually like that. It makes her seem like she's going to have agency in this movie.
Going to be more than just the bratty teenager. And also, it seems like Leo's being set up to be sort of the precocious kid. But I do like this introduction to the children. I do find that sometimes child characters can be too precocious. They can be too annoying, but they both seem nice and friendly. And Leo in particular seems like a sweet kid. So I'm like, yeah, I feel like they've done a good job in this initial scene of introducing the cast of characters. So Emily and Matt drive their kids to school, and while they are on their way there, the kids have a pack of Mentos and some Diet Coke that Matt admonishes them not to drink. This is my first Chekhov's gun, Chekhov's Mentos and Diet Coke.
Yep.
Yes.
I think I've got that one written as well. Yes.
Yes, I see nodding. I mean, you can't introduce Mentos and Diet Coke and not have them go off at some point.
I would have liked for there to have been a Foo Fighters song playing in the background.
That would have been perfect. Yes.
They had the Futos.
Yes, they did. I don't disagree, but I also I don't know that we've mentioned it to this point, but there are a lot of sort of 15 years ago songs in the movie, and this is one of the moments too where we get one of those fun kind of old songs that parents like to annoy their children with. I like that as well. But yes,
what was it?
I don't remember.
Was it the Salt and Pepper song, or was that later?
No. Yes, that comes up at some point. I don't know if it was this scene, but the Salt and Pepper song. I'm sorry.
What?
Peppa.
Salt and Peppa.
Yes, thank you.
I am a big fan. I remember it when I was a teenage boy. But yes.
Yeah, there's a fun mix of, like you said, songs from that era and then songs from the 60s that are usually used as needle drops for the fight scenes. But also that got a little tired in my opinion.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think that the Mentos and Diet Coke, since we are in the car and since Leo puts the Mentos in the pocket of the back seat, I think at some point there's going to be a car chase and the kids are going to help out. They'll be in the back seat. And since they're kids, but actually they probably weren't even born when the Diet Coke and Mentos trend even happened, but they'll know that you can combine those for an explosion and they will do that to help out in some way. Emily again is trying to be the cool mom. She says, why don't we have Monday movies night with mom again? And Alice is like, yeah, no thanks. I'm studying at my friend's house tonight. Emily is disappointed, but she doesn't push the issue. And then they drop off the kids at the school. And as school drop off, Leo gives his parents a big old thumbs up. And we see that he is wearing a fitness tracker ring on his thumb. This is my next Chekhov's gun, Chekhov's fitness tracker. More nodding. I've not to jump ahead, but I've never felt more confident about a Chekhov's gun ever in the podcast. As soon as they showed that fitness tracker, I was like, yes, I am 100% convinced that it's coming back.
Well, because at one point, I'm going to go back a little bit. Fitbit used to be a thing, and it was a fitness bracelet.
Yes.
Basically, right? It really...
I remember it. I was there.
And I just remember all these kids wanting them. And I'm like, what in the world are you going to do with a fitness bracelet? You don't need to track your steps. And it's too damn expensive for a fashion accessory. This is stupid. So when I saw that he was wearing a health ring, I was like, fine, makes sense. They've just moved on to smaller jewelry now. It's
yes.
totally cool.
I have to confess, and I'm embarrassed by this, but I'm officially old. I didn't know what it was, and I didn't recognize that it was on his finger. I was like, he waved at his mom. I was like, that's a big win for parents when they'll be like, acknowledge you in public.
You were just so happy at he waved at them.
I did not know that it was a thing, and that I definitely didn't know what it did. So it does track your sleep. It does
all kinds of stuff.
Yes, yeah. And as Leo says in the movie, it tracks your O2, it tracks your blood pressure, and Matt says, you're 12, you don't have blood pressure.
Right?
Yes. Which again is kind of like the second joke about Jamie Foxx and some of his health concerns.
Oh no.
It happens kind of naturally in the movie from the script, but I don't think is intentional. But anyway.
At the top of the episode, when you mentioned that, I had completely forgotten that he had those health troubles. So I'm glad to see him in new movies again.
Yes.
Yes.
Because you just watched his special, right?
I did. He has a Netflix special that came out just recently called What Had Happened, where he explains, it's like an hour long. And I don't know that I would call it stand up. It's definitely much more him going through the health crisis that he had. So he had to be like 20 days in a coma, sort of knocked out so that they could do the health. And he makes it funny and makes it relatable, but yeah, he had a bad stroke. And I did look it up. He's 57, so just 5 years older than me. which always makes you feel good and healthy. I'm going to drink a lot of water.
You're 51.
I know. That's 5 years from now. 6 years. 7. I don't do math.
He's rounding again.
Yep. It's really cool.
But anyway, I am too glad to see Jamie Foxx doing well. To follow up on what you said, yes, it's nice to see him healthy and working.
Totally agreed. And to follow up on what you said, I also am not totally familiar with the capabilities of these fitness trackers, but when I saw that fitness tracker, I was like, okay, I think that does have like GPS tracking ability. So my guess for this was like, I think the kids are going to get kidnapped and they're going to be able to find them with the help of the tracking abilities of the ring.
Yeah.
When they drop the kids off, old habits die hard, and they spy on Alice with binoculars, 2 sets of binoculars, as she holds hands with a boy and they kiss, which, of course, as parents, they are not thrilled about.
No, but I especially love that they're getting all of their spy gear now from Amazon.
Yes.
That's really nice to know.
And I like how Cameron Diaz says how obvious it is. He's like, where'd you get that? And she's like, Amazon. Like, duh. Yeah. Of course.
2-day shipping.
Yeah, that one blew me away a little bit. But yes, and make your own Jeff Bezos joke here. They're all spying on us.
Alexa's definitely spying on us. And Alexa is spying on Emily in the next scene. Emily is ranting to herself out loud about Alice's bratty teenage behavior. And that's when she also notices there's a string of message notifications popping up on Alice's laptop. These are suspicious messages about how they are going out and getting drinks. So Emily tries but fails to guess the password on Alice's computer until she finds the passwords written on the back of a sticker on the laptop. And her password is Mom Sucks, S-U-X. Matt admonishes Emily for spying on their own child, but quickly changes his tune when they learn from Leo that Alice is at a party. And they run off to the club to retrieve Alice. They are able to find her pretty easily because Alice's Find My Location is turned on her phone, which leads me to my Chekhov's gun, Chekhov's Find My Location. My guess for this was extremely similar to the fitness tracking guess. I was like, okay, the kids are going to get kidnapped. They're going to use the Find My Location on Alice's phone to find her. I'm like, I realize it's kind of putting a hat on a hat. So I was a little bit unsure about this. I was like, maybe, I don't know. But that was my guess that, again, they were going to use this to help find the kids again later in the movie.
So every parent of a teenager knows, like when they get the phone, they want the phone. But what comes with the phone is the trade-off of now I get to know where you're at because you have your phone. So like this is setting up the normal existence of parents and teenagers in modern life. So this I did not expect to pay off later. I was like, oh, I can track you through your phone, so it doesn't matter where you go.
It just rang true to you.
Yes. Although overused by so many of us parents. I feel like back in the day, like back when I was a teenager, these many years ago, that you know, we went everywhere and they never had any idea where we were at, what we were doing. And we turned out okay. So
some tend to call that neglectful, but but it was just a different time. It's all.
I mean, there's got to be some happy medium between latchkey kid and helicopter parent, right? I don't know what it would be, but there's middle ground. But yes, they do easily find Alice at the club. They tell her quite firmly that they are leaving now. Some sleazy club guy intervenes and calls them boomers.
This was the only moment where I was physically mad. In my couch, I literally Henry Cavilled my shoulders. I gave it the double cock, and I was like, Cameron Diaz is not a boomer.
She's not a boomer.
Not a boomer.
I had a similar reaction. I mean, I'm a millennial, so I hopefully won't be mistaken for a boomer, but I also had a visceral reaction. And to the TV, I was like, they're Gen X, if anything. And then I believe that exact line leaves Cameron Diaz's lips like 2 minutes later. And I was like, yes, thank you.
Yeah. I mean, if I'm being honest here, it's not even the age thing that I'm mad about. Like, don't you confuse me with they are wrong on almost every level. No, I am not a boomer.
Also, how dare he call her a Karen?
Yes.
Very rude.
That one didn't bother me as much, but yes, it was not nice. It was an escalation that did not need to happen. But.
Yeah. And they deserve to get their ass kicked.
But kudos to Emily, that isn't the straw that breaks the camel's back. It's only when this guy grabs Alice's arm as they're about to leave, when she snaps and she goes back into her spy training full mama bear, starts throwing punches, Matt backs her up, and they throw this guy over the balcony. They're like, uh-oh, time to leave. And they hightail it out of there.
Yeah, which is technically a crime.
Yeah, I mean, they did assault a person and then throw him over a balcony, and I believe he said, "I can't breathe," so he did seem to be rather injured.
Yeah.
She grabbed him by the throat, so yeah. But
and lifted him, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
But that's a justice thing. They deserved it. Like, you asked for the ass kicking, you got. So I feel like the cops would have let them go on that one, but better to not hang around and fill out the forms.
Yeah.
Yeah, they fucked around and they found out.
They sure did.
In the car, Emily and Matt give Alice a talking to, but they let slip that, oops, they found her by breaking into her laptop and reading her texts. But, you know, like you were saying, Josh, it's not really her phone, it's their phone. And right. I feel like they had a point, but also it was an invasion of privacy, which Alice is understandably upset about, but she's even more upset and confused by what she witnessed at the club and seeing her parents unleash a can of whoop-ass.
Yeah.
That would surprise all of us. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. If I saw my parents beating up someone at a club, it'd be very surprising.
Yeah.
Especially since they are Quakers, so that would be strange.
Hey, man, they don't mess around. It was
But that is great cover.
That's true.
You should check.
You know, I should ask about their cover story. Back at home that evening, Emily is not sorry about her blow up at the club. She says it was exhilarating. It was the most alive she has felt in a very long time. And Emily asks Matt, "Don't you miss the old life?" He says no, which she seems to be sincere about. And he reminds her that they got out for the sake of their children. But he does help her unwind and release some of her pent-up tension with boxing.
Right.
Yeah. Air quotes on the boxing.
Yes, boxing and then boxing.
Yes. I liked this scene too, because the kids throw on their headphones and assume that it's sex when it's not.
Yes.
But I think it's important in a family movie to acknowledge, you know, that I guess what parents do, how you came into existence, but that you don't want to be aware of. I actually felt like this is one of the more family comedy moments that they nail in the movie very well. Like they make a good use of it, but it's never grotesque or over the top. I liked that.
And it's funny for everybody. If you're a kid, yeah.
I did think it was a funny scene overall as well. And I know it's not funny to just repeat jokes. It's actually kind of like painfully unfunny. But I did want to call out the specific joke in the scene about some good old fashioned cooing. Emily's character just wants to go to another country and start a coup or stop a coup. I thought that was a funny joke. So I just wanted to call out that one in particular. I think it probably made me laugh the most.
We always watch with the subtitles on because I don't hear everything and it drives me nuts when I miss stuff. So that particular joke I thought is even better served when you have the text, because if you don't see that it's spelled COUP, at first you might be like, oh, what is coup? Like, right. Is this a new thing? Do I not know about it?
She makes birdhouses. She's really into
doves.
Really into birding. Yeah, exactly. They have some pigeons in the background. Yeah.
Although I guess appropriate because they work in America, that they mostly mention South American countries, which is where our country has cooed the most dictators or leaders that are democratically elected. But anyway.
That good old fashioned cooing.
Cooing. Yep.
The next morning, their old handler, Chuck, from the CIA, shows up at their doorstep with a warning. It turns out their cover has been blown. Someone, of course, was recording the scuffle at the club the other night because TikTok, and the video went viral. And now their old enemies are surely back on their trail. Chuck warns him that Gore and his Volca terrorists are looking for the lost ICS key, and presumably so is Baron. Chuck says that he's convinced that Baron is the one who set them up 15 years ago and is now working with Gore to find the key. Emily is confused. She says they don't have the key. It was lost in the crash. And Matt gets a little shifty and he's like, yeah, we don't have the key. But then all of a sudden, Chuck gets shot. Oh no. So he's laying on the ground, presumably dead.
Oh, but this is the moment where I said, clear eyes, full heart, can't breathe. And I did get a really good laugh from Melissa. I just wanted to sneak my joke in.
You have to go watch Friday Night Lights for that to be a funny joke, but
like, two people out there are just like, they had to pause their phone on the is it podcast app? I don't know what to say appropriately, but anyway, I'm proud of it.
Okay, boomer. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay, boomer. Oh no.
We'll take it.
That one is for you guys out there listening. You know who you are.
But it does bring us to Chekhov's dead handler.
Oh,
because, well, I mean, if we're honest here, a lot of the things that I see are usually based on that person's too big a star for that to be the end.
Yes.
So it doesn't even feel like a Chekhov's gun, because it just felt like he's coming back. At some point, we're going to see him again. You don't just shoot Kyle Chandler and then off screen they run.
Yeah. My brain was fully turned off. At this point.
You believed it?
Yeah, totally. I was like, man,
yeah.
I guess short filming week for him. And then I was done.
You know, I will say I thought he was dead too, because I obviously recognized him. I could not remember for the life of me his name until I looked it up later, because to me, he's one of those character actors where I'm like, oh, hey, it's that guy.
Yeah.
But yes, I do enjoy the metagaming. I do this often with like, that person is, they paid that person too much to just be in this movie for 10 minutes.
Right.
Yeah.
He was also the bomb squad guy in Grey's Anatomy, FYI.
That's for those other two different listeners out there.
Yeah.
I remember that was still when I was watching Grey's Anatomy.
Yeah, it was a while ago.
As far as Matt and Emily can tell, there are shooters out front shooting at Chuck, shooting at them. So now's their time to escape. They grab their go bags, they get in their minivan, and they're going to go collect their kids. So it's car chase scene time. And it's in this moment where Matt confesses to Emily that he did take the ICS key and hid it at Emily's mom's house in England. All they have to do is get it back and then give it to the CIA for immunity and for protection. The car chase scene was also pretty fun, not perhaps the best set piece, but my favorite part was when they flip the car that's chasing them and they're just both so thrilled that they have accomplished that, and they're, you know, like fist bumping. They're like, yeah, we did it.
Yeah, it's a twist on what you would expect parents to do. So yeah, no, I think all of the action scenes work really well, but this is one of the better moments.
And a lot of property damage to their neighbors.
Oh, a lot of property damage.
Yeah.
And it was trash pickup day, so there's a lot of trash to pick up too, which we all know is so annoying. Overturned trash cans.
So many boomers just mad, you know, with rakes and trash. Yeah.
The HOA is going to hear about this.
Yes.
We do get a payoff with the Mentos and the Diet Coke. Matt makes a little impromptu Molotov cocktail out of it to distract the driver who is after them. So yay, kind of.
Again, non-violent.
Yes.
Yeah, and kid science friendly. So like, you know, something you can do in your own backyard and kids can be giggle about later on.
And here's to hoping no kids decide to try it in the car while their parents are driving.
Feel free to recreate, just don't throw it into someone else's car.
Yeah, or mine.
Yeah.
Yes, or that. Emily and Matt do outrun the baddies. They pick up their kids at school and they flee to the airport. Surprise, kids, they are going on a trip to London. And double surprise, they're going to visit the grandmother they didn't know they had. Emily had always told their kids that their grandmother was dead, but it turns out she is alive. The kids are confused, and the parents again evade all of their questions, saying they do deserve an explanation, but it will just have to wait. And Emily and Matt convince themselves that, yeah, they're doing the right thing by lying to their children.
I actually like this particular part of the scene.
Mm-hmm.
It gives Alice something to do. She calls them out pretty profoundly. Like, so wait a minute, I'm grounded because I had a fake ID and lied to you, and now you have fake passports and you're lying to me. What's the difference here? And I actually
Yes.
felt like that made the ground a little more even. I mean, she's obviously wrong, and I guess they're obviously right, but at least it felt like it was a fair fight amongst the family at that point.
Yeah, with the information that Alice has, she raises a very valid point, and it's definitely, I think, something that every kid can relate to, the parents being like, do as I say, not as I do. Obviously, the stakes are a little bit different in this movie, but yeah, I felt like that was a believable moment for the characters. And I also like this scene with Alice because I love that Cotopaxi jacket of hers. I was like, that is such a cute jacket. I think I need it.
I don't remember it, but I'm going to go back and look at it.
I don't think I could pull it off.
I think you could.
Thank you. Thank you for believing in me.
They land in Heathrow and they evade security with their fake passports, but only momentarily. It turns out Baron, Andrew Scott from before, is right on their heels. And so are Thor? Not Thor. You mentioned Chris Hemsworth, and now I'm thinking Thor.
He's very distracting.
He's incredibly distracting, yeah.
Yeah.
Gore's henchmen are also on their trail. The family flees in a stolen car, and Alice finds some cigarettes and a lighter, which Matt confiscates. I have, as my next Chekhov's gun, Chekhov's lighter.
I called it Chekhov's Dodgy lighter.
Ooh, Dodgy light. That's even better. I like the British slang in there. We're going to write down Dodgy lighter. So I'm sure you clocked this as well. Whenever a movie has a literal close-up on an item, you're like, well, that's going to come back later. So Matt pockets the lighter. There's a close-up of him putting the lighter into the pocket. I guessed that at some point he would, of course, start a fire with it, triggering a smoke alarm that I think would allow them to escape somewhere. Like it would act as a diversion, is how I think the lighter is going to come back later. The parents also confiscate their kids' phones and break their SIM cards so that they won't be traced. And they stop to get some gas, or is it petrol?
Yes.
We're in jolly old England, so everything has to, all the words have to change now, don't we? I could break out my British accent. It's really
let's
good.
add some U's to some words. You won't necessarily be able to hear the difference, but just assume if I say color, for example, there's a U in there now.
Yeah.
Okay.
O-U-R. Okay.
Yeah. Or like theater, let's like switch around the E and the R. Just trust me.
I always do. So
the kids stop for some food and they get a full English breakfast. And I have to say, I love me a full English breakfast. I think that they're excellent. Blood pudding sounds terrible, tastes really good.
I have to put that on my list of things to try. My grandmother immigrated from England, so I grew up with an English grandmother, but she never made us like the full English breakfast. That wasn't. But I did grow up drinking hot tea instead of coffee. So I got some of the English, but yeah, when for that poor boy, they put down a full English breakfast, and I was like, he can't eat all that. Like there's
no.
His fitness tracker is going to be like, your heart, it's going crazy.
Too many saturated fats.
Way too many saturated fats. Alice had sneakily swiped the passports out of her mom's bag when they stopped for the pit stop. And this is when the kids noticed that these are fake passports. And they were like, what the heck is going on? Our parents, are they criminals? Are they fleeing the country? And it's also at this moment that it turns out they did not confiscate Leo's Switch gaming console, which also has the ability to get on the internet. So joke's on the parents, I guess. They get on the internet and they try to Google their parents to see what is going on. But it's also in that moment that Gore's henchmen have caught up to the family and they stop Emily and Matt at the petrol pumps and we get another fight scene.
This is the premier fight scene of the movie. Not only do we get a flamethrower gas sequence, this is probably Cameron's best hand-to-hand combat scene. I think she looks like, with the black background of night and then the black pants she's wearing, I think this is actually the best fight scene they have. And it has the wonderful car stunt where they whip slap a human being with the backside of a car and throw them. To which the kids respond, "Oh my God, you killed him!" And she's like, "He's stunned.
He's fine."
But I do think that this is probably the best actual fight scene in the movie.
Yeah,
I also thought it was a fun fight scene. Like you said, Matt makes use of that lighter to turn the petrol pump into a very effective flamethrower. I also thought it was a fun fight scene because it's the moment where the kids really witness what their parents are capable of. So we get the fun commentary from the peanut gallery of the kids of like, what are you doing? And they're aghast, of course. And I thought it was a very good fight scene as well. So they do escape from the thugs and they drive away. They cross paths on the road with Baron, headed the opposite direction, but they manage to evade him by some fancy gun work with Matt. This is maybe the only time he uses a gun, but he uses it to shoot some large metal tubes, I guess I would say, on a transport truck. By doing so, he makes the road inaccessible so that they aren't able to be followed. As they are driving away, Matt and Emily decide they really don't have any choice. It's time to come clean with their kids. They confess that, yes, they are spies. They tell them the whole story. They used to be quick reaction, non-official cover operatives for the CIA. And yes, they are capable of beating up every dad in school.
Yes, I like that one.
I also wondered if this QRN was an actual role in the CIA, but I'll admit I forgot to look it up before recording. I'm like, is this a thing? I don't know.
I don't think it's a thing. And even if it was, it wouldn't be anymore after the movie. I'm sure they change those acronyms like every 6 months, right? They just, constantly rotating because, that would be my assumption.
To me, it smacked of the movie thinking up something that seemed sort of plausible, but without making Matt and Emily like full CIA agents, like, oh, they're kind of CIA agents, but they're kind of not. We'll just like slot them into this role we want them to be in.
Yeah. My aunt actually worked for the CIA growing up, which I always thought was really cool. But she was just a bean counter that worked over scientists that were doing research. And so she would go in and make sure that they were doing the research that they said they were doing. But we did get to once sit in the parking lot at Langley while she went in and she's like, do not get out of the car. Do not talk to anyone. I'll be right back. And then She came back. But regardless, the people that work at the CIA are just like normal office people too. Not everybody's a spy.
Was that a big disappointment to you? Someone was like, hey, your aunt's in the CIA. And you're like, oh my God.
I was kind of hopeful that she was lying, right? Like you think, like as a 12-year-old, you think, oh man, we're about to get into it, like time machine or something cool is going to happen. But no, we just left, went back to her house in Virginia.
You never know. Maybe it's all a ruse to this day.
It worked.
It's also in this scene that Matt takes Leo's Nintendo Switch and tosses it into the bed of another vehicle that's headed in the opposite direction to throw Baron and Gore off of their scent.
Thank goodness the new Switch is coming out next year so that young Leo will be able to get the brand new one. And he's owed it, definitely.
He is definitely owed it by the end of this movie. But before we get to that, it's time for a quick commercial break to hear a few ads. And we're back. The family arrives at Emily's mother's estate, Foxhound Manor, which is a huge palatial English estate. And this is where we meet Emily's mother, Jenny, played by Glenn Close.
So this is where I messed up. I should have said earlier that I called Chekhov's mother when she brought up the mother. And I wrote down that I thought it was Sigourney Weaver. I think I even mentioned this to Melissa. I was so sure it was going to be Sigourney Weaver, but it was Glenn Close.
So you didn't watch the trailer?
No, I didn't. It was revealed in the trailer?
Yes.
I should watch the trailer.
No, maybe it was more of a surprise this way.
Although I do love, because the Brits are always doing like beloved American characters. So I'm always kind of glad when an American actor takes a British role.
Yeah, how about a Kansan as Clark Kent?
Right.
Yeah.
Stop with the British guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Kansas cultural appropriation.
It is. We have so few things to be proud of in Kansas.
Just give it to them.
We did have Wizard of Oz, like Wicked was big this year.
It was.
And Superman's going to be the movie of the summer. So, I mean, it's been pretty big for Kansas.
True. Kansas is having its moment. Yeah, so Ginny is pheasant hunting. She's still a great shot. Make note of that. Emily is not happy to see her, nor is she particularly happy to be back home. And Ginny finally gets this opportunity to meet her grandkids. She has been kept apprised of their childhood thanks to Matt, who's been sending her photos on the down low, which Emily is not particularly happy that Matt has been maintaining a relationship with her mother behind her back.
Matt's kind of had quite a few secrets.
That's true.
In this marriage, hasn't he?
Hiding the key, sending photos to the grandma.
Yeah.
So I think that like if I'm gonna make excuses for Matt here, I will represent the bad male perspective. So like, you know, like she getting pictures isn't really a relationship, and she's a spy. She could get this stuff on her own. If I give it to her, she won't start looking for us and where we're at, which might bust us. Like he's actually doing a protective thing here. Did I sell it well there?
No.
I'm afraid I do, in general, agree with Josh on this one. I don't think Matt has done anything too horrible. He hasn't encouraged that Ginny overstep any bounds. You know, he just sent like a Christmas card, essentially, which I feel like, you know, that's good, like son-in-law behavior, I suppose. The kids want to hug their grandma, but she doesn't want to because she's British. Right. Lest we forget. When they go into the home, she introduces the family to her much younger boyfriend, Nigel, boyfriend / MI6 agent in training. And he's also a complete buffoon.
Yes.
I will say this character was the least successful comedy in the movie for me. It just didn't work for me. He was so over the top. He was such a caricature. I feel like his character was for the kid audience, you know, like here's the pratfall guy, here's the really silly guy. He had a few funny lines, but overall I was like, ugh, Nigel. Like my reaction to him was akin to Emily's reaction to him. Like, ugh, please just go away. I don't want to see you.
Well, and I don't know that the movie needed more characters at this point. Like we knew the mom was coming from early on, but like this was another add-in. Like, and I believe that this was the point where we started looking is like, how does there 30 more minutes in this movie?
Yes.
Like, this is almost over, right? And then you look at the time, you're like, oh no, we still got 20 more minutes or so. I was like, okay.
I really thought this was going to be a 90-minute movie when I chose it. And then when I pressed play, I was like, oh no. Meanwhile, we also get scenes with Baron, who is still in hot pursuit and still pining after Emily. It's at this time when Baron and his sidekick track the vehicle to Foxhound Manor, which Baron recognizes as belonging to Ginny Curtis, Emily's mom, who was apparently quite the MI6 legend in her day. Matt explains to Ginny that he's hidden the ICS key on her estate, while Nigel shows his cool office to the kids, including his weapon collection. This is where I have Chekhov's throwing stars. Leo was incredibly adept at using the throwing stars. He was a natural, so I'm like, I feel like this is one of those straightforward Chekhov's guns. It's a weapon. Leo's going to use a throwing star to great effect later in the movie, was my guess. Emily and her mother Ginny finally have it out. They argue, they accuse each other of both being poor mothers in their own ways. And Ginny says it's no wonder why Alice hates Emily. Alice overhears all of this, and Ginny ends the argument in a huff. Ginny catches up to her granddaughter Alice, and they have a little heart-to-heart. And Alice says, you know, I don't really hate my mom. And basically they have a little grandma-granddaughter bonding moment.
That was nice.
It was nice.
And it had one of the great tropes of all movies of nowadays, where they use Photoshop to take young Cameron Diaz and make it look like she's on slightly younger Glenn Close's forehead, or like laying on the shoulder, right?
Yeah.
I love those, the fake pictures. There should be like a museum of bad Photoshopped fake pictures from movies. I'd give $5 whole to go to the museum.
I would too. I love this in movies as well when there's photographs. My favorite game is trying to figure out if it is actually the actor or if it's a different child. This is a fun game to play. I also saw, I think it was a tweet where someone said that they like to imagine how excited an actor's mom must get when she gets a call from the production company that's like, hey, we need a photo of your kid from when he was 7, preferably playing in a wagon. And she's like, oh boy.
Yes.
Goes to basement, pulls out box.
I love that. Yes.
You know, if not a museum, this would at least be a pretty fun coffee table book.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think coffee table book's a good one. All right. Trademark it. We'll get
let's
that in
pitch
production.
this to someone. Let's figure out someone to pitch this to.
We're going to have to get a lot of clearances.
That's true. Yeah, a lot of rights for that. Emily and Matt retrieve the ICS key from where it's hidden in a secret grotto, and it's in this moment that a bunch of heavily armed goons storm the grounds and infiltrate the home. Emily and Matt rush back into the house where they help release a tied-up Ginny and Nigel, but when they go to help their kids, they discover that they are being held at gunpoint. Emily demands that Baron show himself. She's like, I know you're behind this, Baron, but surprise, not surprise.
What?
It's not Baron after all. It's been Chuck all along. Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, some of us were surprised.
I mean, I was surprised. I guess I'm just a big dum-dum.
Me too.
No, not at all. I just love this moment in a TV show or a movie where the reveal is made. Like,
Yes.
even if I know it's coming, I still love watching all the actors have to act like, oh my God, you know, we weren't just having a bagel at the craft services station. Like, it's Chuck. What?
All right, Cameron, time to earn that money. Pretend you don't know Kyle. Okay.
Kyle Chandler, how could you? Yes, it's the ultimate betrayal. It has been a setup all along. Baron has not been working for Gore after all. In fact, he's been tracking down Gore's terrorists, and Chuck has been lying the whole time. He faked his own death and framed Baron for it, and he did want a little bit of revenge too, because when Emily and Matt disappeared 15 years ago, it also tanked his career at the CIA because it was a big embarrassment for the agency. So with their kids held at gunpoint, Matt and Emily have no choice but to surrender the key to Chuck, and he makes off in a helicopter with the key and the kids in tow, keeping them as collateral until he finishes his business. Emily and Matt try to get clues as to where Chuck has gone with their kids, so they review the surveillance cameras that Ginny has around her estate. And in reviewing the footage, they notice that Leo gives the camera a thumbs up. And what's on his thumb? Why, it's the fitness tracker.
Why, it's Chekhov's health ring.
It's Chekhov's Aura ring, or whatever those things are called. Yes, in fact, the fitness tracking ring does have GPS, and they use this to pinpoint the kids' location at the Tate Modern Museum, which is having a black tie event that night. Very convenient because in a spy movie, you need to have your main characters dress up in a tuxedo and a black dress, respectively.
Yeah, and go to a party.
Except she was wearing pants. Like, I wanted Cameron to have on like a dress, right? Like a
Yeah.
Would you have taken a squart?
a what?
A squart, right? Isn't that the skirt that looks like shorts? You know?
It's got the shorts on under the skirt, yeah.
I would think that would have been okay, because then she's still got to do the kicks.
Yeah. I mean, you can rip the skirt off and have, but like I was expecting,
The glamour.
Yeah.
I getcha.
It could have been more glamorous.
I mean, I guess if my kids were being held hostage, I probably wouldn't do a full glam look before sneaking into a place, but you don't want to look out of place either.
You're right. You got to take time
Yeah.
to do the little things matter.
Yeah.
Your kids will be fine. Take the extra 10 minutes and really do it up.
Yeah.
I think you're right.
Wear a little black dress, but also some sensible flats.
Exactly. Yeah.
Or maybe you carry the flats, because heels thrown at someone is always a deadly weapon.
Oh, that's
So
true.
you take off the heels
Very
and then
true.
suddenly flats come out.
Run away.
Yeah, you could slide into them, like jump into them and then slide down the hall. I'm down to it. I call Jackie Chan. We've got another scene ready to go.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You've heard of combat boots. Let me suggest combat ballet flats for your consideration.
Steel-toed.
Steel-toed ballet shoes.
Yeah.
Okay, now we're talking.
That's practically a point shoe. I mean, yeah. Emily and Matt do make it to the black tie event in style. Chuck is also there at the building where he has assembled a few potential buyers to demonstrate the capabilities of the ICS key. Gore, however, doesn't want to negotiate, and he sends his goons to take the key back by force. So all of the major players of the movie are converging on the Tate Modern Chuck has his tech gal turn off a few power grids across London and also open the gates of the Thames River barrier to the Atlantic Ocean. Emily and Matt spot Chuck's goons boarding an elevator to the top, and they squeeze into the elevator with them. I thought we were going to get a Captain America scene here, a good old elevator fight scene. I love an elevator fight scene.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, it happens behind closed doors because we cut to them exiting the elevator and all of the goons have already been knocked out. But we do get another fight scene with yet more henchmen. I thought this scene was, well, I was going to say maybe it's my favorite, but I still like the plane fight scene in the beginning. This one was maybe more visually interesting, though, just because there's a bunch of neon lights. They are fighting with these pink neon light batons, essentially. So you get some pretty interesting visuals there. Some might call this bisexual lighting. I call it John Wick lighting.
All right. Yeah. I still haven't seen the John Wick movies. I'm going to take your word for it. I like the John Wick. Yeah.
Yeah, but whatever you want to call it, it looks cool. Barron intercepts them at the Tate Modern and explains that he is an MI6 agent. He is not a double agent, and he was after them all along because he thought that they were there to sell the key. But now that he knows that Emily and Matt are there with good intentions, he's not going to arrest them. They are free to go. The MI6 agents take out most of Chuck's henchmen while Matt and Emily run after Chuck, who flees to a speedboat along the river, and he takes their kids with him. Before Matt and Emily can reach the speedboat, they are stopped by Gore's thugs, but fortunately, Ginny is there. She comes in clutch with a sniper rifle and pins down the thugs, giving Matt and Emily time to pursue the speedboat on motorcycle.
As one does.
Yes, the best way to catch a boat is on motorcycle, as everyone knows.
The Tom Cruise method.
Yeah, yes, just run really fast and you will be able to catch up to whatever vehicle you are pursuing.
Yeah. Planes, boats, motorcycle. You can catch anything if you run like Tom Cruise.
I try, but I just don't do it well.
The Tom Cruise run. Things are looking desperate because if Chuck makes it through the open barrier onto the Atlantic Ocean, he'll be free and he'll have no more use for the kids as hostages. So Matt and Emily need to get to him first. Eventually, they do make it onto a speedboat of their own and they follow in hot pursuit. Meanwhile, Nigel spots Chuck's tech gal fleeing the Tate Modern and he rams into her van with his own car, rendering her unconscious and giving him access to the key. Matt and Emily finally catch up to Chuck's speedboat and board it, and as a team, the whole family comes together and overpowers the bad guys, and the kids escape safely into the water. But time is running out, the barriers aren't closed, Chuck is still racing toward the open barrier, and with seconds left to spare, Nigel key smashes the laptop and manages to get the barrier to start to close. Emily and Matt give Chuck a few parting punches for good measure before they bail off the boat. Mere moments before the boat and Chuck smash into the barrier in a fiery explosion. Yay!
Yay! Yes, yay for Chuck's death. Wink, wink. But then
yes.
I want to follow it up with. I did look this up. So in major cities in America that have rivers, lots of cities are on rivers. Generally, you should not get into said river. The Thames is also one of those. It is full of E. coli, condoms, drugs. All of those people were headed for tetanus shots. Do not get it. And again, if you look it up, there are a couple of places when the water tests good that you can swim in the Thames. But for the most part, it's very cold and you should not swim in it ever. And I had that thought when they threw the kids in. I was like, oh, that's not good.
They just got the plague. Bummer.
Close your mouths, kids. Don't swallow any of that water.
Anyway, just a safety notice.
Thank you for the PSA.
I believe when they had the Summer Olympics in Paris this last year, they had to cancel some of the swimming events because the Seine was, in fact, too gross to allow any of the athletes into it.
Despite spending 4 years trying to clean it up and get it ready. But yeah.
Actually, they did have several events in it, and many people got horribly sick.
Well, when they postponed it and then 2 days later they were like, JK, it's back on. In my head, I was like, I don't think that you solve the problem, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and we're talking Olympic athletes. Their immunity system wasn't able to overcome it. So, like, what do us mere mortals have? Like,
well, I mean, I'm more worried about their immunity systems when they get back to the Olympic Village, because from what I hear, it is the sex party of all time.
That's true.
Not even those cardboard beds can stop them.
Brava. Yes.
We have our celebratory moment now that the bad guy has seemingly been dispatched. Emily and Alice reconcile, as do Emily and her mother, Ginny, and they hug despite Ginny's Britishness. Matt and Emily vow to their kids that they'll never do that again. And this was where I was like, Gilligan cut to them doing it again. But no, instead we cut to the kids' big soccer game. Alice makes a game-winning shootout goal and wins it for her team. The whole family is there, including Ginny and Nigel, and they all celebrate exuberantly. After the game, Alice shows that she and Emily have well and truly patched things up when she suggests that they have a Monday movie night. Emily tries to hide her tears unsuccessfully.
Oh.
She's also pretty happy to be kid-free for the night, and when she and Matt climb into the car, it turns out they are not alone after all. Baron is creepily waiting in the backseat for them.
Yeah, prepare yourself for Chekhov's sequel, which happens in every action movie. Just in case this does really well, we gotta set up the next one.
Yeah. Yes, as I said in my Craven episode, movie, very bold of you to assume there will be a sequel, but go off, I guess. And that is exactly what this movie does. Baron says to Emily that he needs her help, and he needs her to recruit a member of her family to find Chuck because they never recovered his body. To which Matt says, well, you can recruit her mom. And Baron says, no, I'm not talking about her mom. I'm talking about her dad. What? Record scratch.
Yes. I'm trying to think of what my guess would be for Cameron Diaz's dad.
Oh, yes.
Ooh, I wanted to say Robert Redford, but that's too old.
Yeah.
I'm going to say Hugh Grant. This is going to be my guess.
Oh, Hugh Grant's a good guess.
And maybe he can play an American.
Oh, that'd be funny. Although he's so grumpy in real life. Like, I love that they could import that and it would be comedic, that he's very unflappable. I don't know that I can beat Hugh Grant as a guess. Who's the... I'm so bad because I don't know any actors' names. I have to ask Melissa based on other parts. In The Princess Diaries, Julie Andrews' boyfriend.
Hector Elizondo.
There you go. Maybe.
Oh.
I guess, yeah, that doesn't work for her dad, does it? No.
The coloring's a little wrong.
She's adopted.
But I like him. Oh, Ed O'Neill. That's American. He's
all right.
He's very famous. He's lovable.
Pierce Brosnan? He's got the spy thing going.
Yes. I mean, I will throw down my chip right now and say there's no sequel coming, I don't think. But
I think that's a pretty safe guess. Yes, we've made it to the end. And I think what you said segues well into final thoughts, our overall thoughts on this movie. What did you guys think?
I enjoyed it. I didn't feel like it was a bad movie.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that I would say it was a great movie.
Yes.
But I enjoyed certain aspects. Like, I liked that there was a lot of non-violent incidents in an action movie. I liked the chemistry between Jamie Foxx and Cameron Diaz.
Yes.
But there were a few things that I would have liked to have seen. Like, I really expected the kids to save the parents at one point.
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
A little bit a la more Spy Kids.
Or Incredibles, which is clearly a touchstone for this movie.
Yeah.
I think I agree with you in the it was just fine. I think that Netflix has an issue. So I know this guy directed the one with Sandy Bullock and Channing Tatum where she's the romance novelist. That's also his property. And again, I remember we watched that. We were very excited. I'm a huge Romancing the Stone fan from back in the day. So I was like, oh, this is like a reboot to that. And I remember getting to the end and like, you can't really ever point at anything that is bad about the movie. Right. But it does feel like it's not an artistic product, but more like a corporate committee's well thought out, finished thing where, you know, and I think Netflix does have this problem, whereas what you are willing to watch in your living room and consider entertainment is completely different than what you will shell out money and go to a movie theater for. And I feel like that's where this movie sort of lands in the middle of, like, there's nothing wrong with it. And you can watch it with the family. It will kill a good evenings of entertainment. And a lot of like the Tom Cruise, Ethan movies where he's the spy.
Mission Impossible.
Like the mission, like you watch it, but you don't like remember like which one. Like, is that the one where Philip Seymour Hoffman's the bad guy, or did John Woo direct that one? You don't really remember any details about the movie. There's no like, I don't know that
it's a summer read.
Yeah,
yes.
It's like brain candy.
Yeah,
I'm like, oh, that was fine, and then you move on. And I think at that level, the movie succeeds. But I don't feel like I'm like desperate for more of this kind of content.
Yeah. What did you think?
Yeah, I would agree with everything you guys have said so far. And to your point of watching something at home on Netflix, the value proposition of that versus going to a movie, I do feel like if I had shelled out to see this in a theater, I might have been a little disappointed. Like, oh, I can't believe I spent $20 for that. But since we already have the sunk cost of my Netflix subscription, it feels like you're watching it for free. So with that in mind, I don't feel like my time was wasted. I do feel like I was entertained start to finish. Like you said, it's not anything groundbreaking or particularly artistic. It is pretty paint by the numbers. But that being said, it also fulfills its contract with the audience. It's like, okay, here's a silly, family-friendly, comedic action film. And I'm like, yep, it did what it said it was going to do. It checked all the boxes. What I read on the label is what I got. So I felt like I was happy with that. Like you said, Melissa, I really enjoyed the chemistry between Cameron Diaz and Jamie Foxx. I felt like they were really riffing off each other a lot. I bought them as a couple. I thought that some of the jokes were kind of boring and predictable, like, oh, I only need 5 more minutes to get ready. I know that means you need 20 minutes to get ready. I'm like, why it's taken so long to get ready? You know, like that's a joke we've heard like a million times, or like the kids being so embarrassed by their parents singing to songs, like also a joke we've heard a lot. But on the other hand, there were a lot of jokes that I thought were unexpected, that I thought were like genuinely funny. I liked the thing about the cooing, like I said. I liked how Matt said that sometimes things can be good weird, like how they're still allowed to listen to Michael Jackson. As an example, it's like good weird. So yeah, there were little gems of jokes in there that I thought were really funny.
I would assume that was a Jamie Foxx joke too. I think that was an ad lib. I don't think that was written.
Yeah.
I think that was Jamie Foxx, and they were like, keep it, that one. Yeah. But anyway.
Yeah, they'll let that one through. And speaking of Jamie Foxx, I also really liked his interactions with the son character. I thought they had a cute little dynamic going, and I especially liked Leo. He's sort of the contrast to all the rest of his family. He's like this very sweet, sensitive little boy where everyone else in his family have such big personalities. So as a family unit, I thought that was successful as well. But you do had a very good point that the kids should have saved the parents at some point. Even though that would be expected, I feel like that's expected because it would have been satisfying to have that happen. You know, like you want to see the kids do something to save their parents.
Well, especially after they went out of their way to show Leo being really good at all of these things. Like, yes, he threw the star really well, and he was like a computer genius. And so he had all of these like amazing spy skills already. And then they kind of didn't do anything with them.
There's also this moment where once the key is gotten by the bad guy, that MacGuffin ends, and then the kids are forced into the role of MacGuffin. So now the parents just have to get them back, and there's no chance for those characters to develop. They're just trapped in a boat.
That's true.
Like, I felt like that's one of the reasons why something like The Incredibles does so well, is that all of the characters in the family have a chance to develop and a storyline pay off. Whereas the kids in this movie sort of just get,
saved.
Yeah, exactly. Which is, I guess if we're there for just the couple, then that's probably what this movie is. But I think the reason that doesn't like elevate to something better is probably in that, like, their development not happening.
Yeah, we could have had a moment where Leo gets to use his skills. Maybe Alice could use her soccer skills, for example. We know that she's like an ace soccer player. She could kick some guys, surely, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There was no nut shot in this movie, which I fully expected some's going to get kneed, right? Like, that's yes. One of the comedy, like, action movie jokes of all time.
It's never not funny.
I agree with you in principle, but...
I will say I felt at first a little bad about making you guys watch this because my expectations were pretty low. But then when I watched it, I was like, okay, that was actually a lot better than I thought it was going to be. Granted, my bar was almost on the floor, but I was like, I enjoyed it well enough. I hope that Josh and Melissa did as well.
And again, too, it's really easy to complain about this stuff, I think, at the end. But again, like, it's one of those movies you get done and you're like, that was great. All right. Is it bedtime? Or we watch a few YouTube videos or refill your glass? What are we doing?
Only because it's in recent memory, just comparing it to Craven, the last episode I did, I would much rather watch Back in Action again than watch Craven again.
As a Spider-Man fan, I would just wish that Sony would give up and give the character back to Disney and be done instead of these bad Spider-Man villain movies to try and keep control of the character. But
I agree completely.
As a comic book nerd, I will set that aside. But
you can't really expect a great movie when the whole impetus behind it is trying to hang on to your IP desperately.
Right. They took all of the art out of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Josh and Melissa, I have one last question for you guys about this movie. Do you think you would be an effective husband-wife spy team duo?
Oh, we're bad at lying. No, we're gonna get killed right away. Yeah.
I feel like if it was like the Mr. and Mrs. Smith type universe, like we would be the handlers. Like
we'd be the guy in the chair.
Guy in the van.
Yes, like we could do that part. And then good emotional sounding board, and they're like, I can't believe I had to kill him. It's like, it's okay, he was bad. It's we could do that part. We could be great sidekicks for those characters, but no, like, could we fight evil or start a coup? Definitely not.
Nope, no cooing for us. We are definitely the comedic sidekick relief that may or may not die. If it's a movie.
Yes. No, yeah. I think you're right. Probably there's
one of us probably has to go.
Yes. Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah. Hopefully it's me.
Hopefully it is you.
Oh, so sweet.
What about you? Do you think you could pull off the spy action hero?
Oh, not at all. No. I'm a terrible liar. I enjoy some card games, so if it could be like the movies and I could go to a casino and maybe play some blackjack and look glamorous.
Nice.
If that were truly what spycraft were, then sign me up. But since that's not the reality of it, then no. Although I will also say, now that I think about it, I own about 15 wigs. So I'm like disguise master. So yeah.
Like aliens.
I'd give it my best shot, but do some quick change disguises,
I would guess that the real CIA agents, even the ones that are spies, probably pretty boring most of the time.
Probably, yes.
Interspersed with, horrible events where you are being actively trying to murder somebody or they're murdering you. So
yeah. Also, if you're going to make a spy movie, do it the real quick change and wig stuff that I want, like they do on Broadway, where you pull a string and suddenly you're wearing a princess dress or something. Like that's what the spy movie I want to see.
Yeah.
All of a sudden you're Elsa. Yeah, exactly.
And we'd be the team holding the wires on the other side of the alley, like, oh, pull.
I'd watch that movie.
Suggestions for Back in Action too, Cameron. We're on your team.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, well, it's the part of the podcast where we talk about the Chekhov's guns and tally the points. Let's get into it. The first Chekhov's gun we had was Chekhov's tax credit.
Okay, so I did think, because we started in the English manner, I was like, clearly they got the London tax credit. So the end of this movie will be like someplace famous in London. And there is actually the scene where they run across that famous bridge where I think Spider-Man fought in his movie. And you can see the Tate, and I think the Eye is in the background too, the big Ferris wheel. And I was like, I assumed that was going to happen. I don't know that I will tell.
It's not really a Chekhov's gun, though,
yes, is it? It's not. And my understanding, I'm a theater nerd from high school on. I took it even into college because theater people are extra. But
what?
The way I was always told the story of Chekhov's gun was that what happened is he had a play, it was boring in the first act, and it got good in the second act, but people left at intermission. And so as he came up with a way to keep people riveted in the first act and paying attention, he had the main character walk in, open up a drawer, put the gun in the drawer, close it, and lock it without comment. And then the play went on. And people stayed. They loved the play. But afterwards, everyone's like, what was up with the gun thing? And he's like, I just did that so you'd pay attention. It didn't have anything to do with the plot. And he learned the lesson that you really have to pay things off if you're going to do it. And it was like an early Chekhov learning kind of curve thing. So to me, a Chekhov's gun is usually like a bad thing, like a plot point that has been dropped. But I want to play along. So I like tax credit, which was a bad guess.
That's a bad guess.
I appreciate your background because I do not have a background in theater. And to dovetail off what you were saying, Chekhov's gun is a very interesting concept because it is not particularly concrete. It's not like Anton Chekhov ever sat down and was like, here's what I mean by this. And in fact, there's many different references in his correspondence and in his speeches to this concept of Chekhov's gun, but he never phrases it or describes it quite the same way. One of the more popular agreed upon definitions is if you introduce a gun in Act 1, it should go off by Act 3. Yeah. So right. I appreciate you trying to play the game. And I also appreciate that Melissa said that's not a Chekhov's gun because I like to be nice to my guests, but...
Oh, no, it's not.
Okay.
I didn't think there was any real Chekhov's guns in the movie completely, honestly. But I agree, that was not one.
One thing that I like to use as a tiebreaker for whether something is a Chekhov's gun or not is whether you could remove it and if its removal would impact the story at all. So let's say we removed London. Well, they could just have it be set in Paris and nothing material about the movie would change, right? So, and also, but you know, your tax credit thing, I certainly give you credit for foreshadowing. Like, I think that this counts as foreshadowing, absolutely, which is like bedfellows with Chekhov's gun. They can almost be synonymous sometimes, but
no, it's I'm quite fine. But yes, I agree. That was not a Chekhov's anything.
Okay, I am subtracting points, sadly.
I'm so sorry. Costing the team.
Nope, it's all good.
Next is Chekhov's Thighs of Steel, which I wish to God had come back.
I know, right? But so I just cost us points too.
Yeah.
And damn you, Cameron's thighs!
It was a rough filming day for Jamie. But also, one wonders, like, that would have been a simple thing to do too. And there's even a fighting style, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, where you literally try and do that, where you get your thighs around their chest and you choke them and you put up the guard and they try and punch themselves out and you just choke them out, which she could have done.
Next, all of us guessed Chekhov's Mentos and Diet Coke.
Yeah.
This had a setup. This had a payoff. I will say it's not quite Chekhov's gun in the sense that the payoff is pretty close on the heels of the setup. Usually a Chekhov's gun happens in Act 3, but that being said, I think that ultimately this counts as a Chekhov's gun.
Yeah, well, because they tried to play it very nonchalantly. I'm just going to put these Mentos here. Very strange candy for a small child to be eating, but it's totally cool.
And one would wonder how Dad knew it was there when he was driving and not looking at it when it happened, but...
That's a good point.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Someone call CinemaSins.
Oh.
We also all guessed Chekhov's fitness tracker. Full points for that one. I have never been happier for myself on this podcast. I just felt so strongly about it. I would have been crushed if this did not have a payoff.
Yes.
It would have been, they would have really wasted valuable screen time if they hadn't used it again.
Well, that was a moment where I was like, wait a second, is this a Chekhov's gun or is it product placement?
Oh.
That's tricky.
For a moment, I was worried that maybe it was just product placement for an Oura ring and it wasn't going to have any sort of payoff, but then it did. My next guess was Chekhov's Find My Location. This did not end up being anything, so I am subtracting points for that.
Although it did have the good ability to make teenagers watching the movie gasp in horror as the phones were taken from them and destroyed. So like I feel like that's a real horror movie moment for any teenager watching.
Their phones weren't destroyed, just the SIM card, right?
I mean, it has all the information on it, like your texts, your...
Oh, fair enough.
That's true.
You're right. It might as well be.
Snapping that SIM card would be like snapping their necks, you know. Melissa had the very good guess of Chekhov's dead handler, Chandler.
Right.
Full points for that.
Who's still a dead handler.
Yeah, he's
maybe
never gonna die. He's like Moriarty. Push him over the waterfall, he's coming back.
Yeah, if there is a sequel, you might retroactively get even more points if he comes back yet again, right?
Hey, 3 to 5 years. Look us up.
You're telling me there's a chance.
We also all guessed Chekhov's lighter, or should I say Chekhov's dodgy lighter.
Lighter.
Again, kind of like the Mentos and Coke, there was not much breathing room between the setup and the payoff here. But ultimately, I feel like it fulfills the requirements of a Chekhov's gun.
Especially at setup, payoff.
Yeah, but it was a spectacular use.
It was a very good payoff.
I didn't put together that it was going to be at the gas station.
That fast.
Making a flamethrower.
Yes.
But that was cool.
Oh, yeah, that's true. We didn't guess exactly how it was going to come back, so I guess I'll do partial points for us for that. And finally, my last guess was Chekhov's throwing stars, which I feel like was a missed opportunity.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm going to blame that on the movie. You know what? Maybe there was a missing scene. Maybe there was a deleted scene, but they decided the runtime was already too bloated and cut it.
Well, and again, too, when you make a movie, so they stopped filming for a year and you're working with children, Leo might not have been available to refilm scenes. And because like suddenly, like especially boys or girls at that age, suddenly they're like, this is like the Lost problem, or, where Michael's son grows up like so fast. They're like, we got to get rid of this kid.
Right. Suddenly they're 6 feet tall. And
yeah.
Like, oh dear. You think anyone will notice? He's a baritone now.
Oh no, he's not an adorable little boy anymore. He's a pimply teenager.
But yeah, no, I do wonder. I'm not going to watch the movie again, but I do wonder if you can watch and try and see what scenes were filmed before and what scenes were filmed after. Or was it like 80% done or 20% done when they had to take the year off, which, would, out of curiosity, I kind of wonder that. Not enough to like watch it again.
Yeah.
Because it seemed pretty seamless. After we watched the movie, I watched the special and then I was like, I wonder when that was. And I looked it up and it was like, oh no, he was on set for Back in Action when he had the stroke. So I was like, oh, okay. So this was supposed to come out a lot more previous and now it's out. So
a lot of times hair can be a good indicator. Like sometimes there's reshoots and it's obvious someone's wearing a wig or something like that.
Or they've digitally erased a mustache.
Or they've digitally erased a mustache. Yes.
That's bad. That was bad.
I just have to say I loved Cameron Diaz's luxurious extensions that she had throughout the whole movie. So she just had fake hair the whole time, but I thought it looked great. I was like, damn, I wish I had wonderful extensions like that.
That's really smart. Like you should, if you're an actress, you write it into like all of your movies. Like, oh, I think she has glorious auburn hair down to her waist.
Maybe she was spending that good Charlotte money to get the although I think it was a missed opportunity. We didn't get anyone to ask her to flip her goddamn hair, which how hard would it have been? Like that
so easy.
Maybe in the sequel we'll keep an eye out for that.
They're gonna crib all these really great ideas from us.
We just wrote the whole movie.
We'll mail the podcast to ourselves in an envelope and leave it sealed, and then we can sue them.
As long as they don't take that coffee table book idea from us, I'll be okay.
Okay. You know what? Deal. The rest they can have gratis.
Okay. All right. So if you'll bear with me for a moment while I do some basic arithmetic. Beep,
do you need
boop,
tabulating
boop.
music? Da 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 da. It's the dating game, right? It's the dating game.
I believe you.
Yep, I'm the oldest person in the room.
Phenomena.
Well, on that note, the scores have been tabulated. I have a total of 6 points, and Josh and Melissa, congratulations. You are our winners with a total of 9 points.
What?
I feel like I should have drug you down further. I don't
know how I don't know what magic. We're not going to look a gift horse in the mouth. I don't know how it happened.
But obviously, there's a very nice host involved in this one.
She's been so kind to us.
She's like, I found out they were Gen Xers. I'm kind as millennials. They're very scared of us. She was like, let them win. Let the Gen Xers win.
For God's sakes, don't call them boomers.
They're going to make me drink from a hose outside. I know it.
That's all they did, apparently.
I'll just say that I blame it on 2 against 1. That'll be my excuse.
That's exactly right.
That's fair. Yes.
But I got to be honest, we do share a brain. So I don't know that it's really 2 against 1.
Yeah, yes. And I don't know the name of any actor in anything unless she's standing next to me. We will have conversations at parties where I yell at her, Melissa, come here. And I'm like, the one guy in the thing. And I said that. And you're like, ugh, Channing Tatum. I'm like, yes, that guy.
And then I walk off and get, my cheese puff or whatever.
Well, just like Matt and Emily, I think you guys make an excellent team. It's been so fun having you on. Thank you again for joining me.
Thank you. That was so much fun. We have not actually recorded a podcast in many years.
3 years.
And so I was nervous. But it was so much fun. What an amazing idea you had here. And it's just a fun way to watch a movie.
Thank you so much. And I selfishly am creating more Josh and Melissa content for myself to listen to. So I really appreciate you coming on the show. And until next time, where can the listeners find you online?
Just go listen to our podcast, the one with Josh and Melissa. If you want to go through all the Friends episodes, we talked about every single one. A lot of Ted Lasso seems to be, we did a bunch of those episodes and people really like watching or listening to those. So if that interests you, go for those. But other than that, that's about all we are. They're mostly hanging out for one day when we have grandkids. They'll be able to listen back when grandma and grandpa were cool
or at the very least younger.
Birth of podcasting, and they were out there like the famous podcasters of yore.
Like Ira Glass? They're not gonna think we were that cool.
No, yeah. No, we're not Ira Glass cool.
Well, listeners, I can vouch that they are that cool. I hope that you will give the one with podcast a listen. I will put a link in the show notes. And you can also play along with Chekhov's Whatever as well. Come find me on the socials and tell me what Chekhov's guns you found in the movie. And until next time, bye.
Bye.
Auf Wiedersehen. We bring this nice, awkward energy to everything.
We made it weird.
Thanks for listening to Chekhov's Whatever. Go to chekhovswhatever.substack.com to follow along with the podcast. If you're enjoying the show, be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast app and leave a positive review. You can also find video clips and full audio episodes on YouTube, so be sure to like and subscribe at Chekhov's Whatever. And finally, you can send email to chekhovswhateverpodcast@gmail.com. All right, let's end this show with a bang.